Hi everyone, my name is Heather and I'm the person behind Happy Puppy Truffles. Today I wanted to share with you guys a version of the Kagami Mochi that we did yesterday for the shikishi. And this particular version is actually three-dimensional, so you can make it like a display item. And it just basically combines lots of the different elements of the traditional origami we've looked at to create what kind of looks like the display. Now I'll show you guys the parts here, and I'll have links so that you can go to the actual videos to see how to make everything. But rather than making this video super long and going through all of it again, if you need to be reminded, you can go back. For example, the base of everything here is going to be this table origami, and this particular table here that I've done, just to give you guys an idea, is I used a piece of paper that was 24.5 about. So if you're trying to kind of make things to scale, this is kind of what you'd want to do here. It's 24 by 24.5. 24.5 by 24.5, excuse me. So I'll have a link here so you guys can see that. I used just some handmade paper because that's what I had in larger size, but really thick paper would work really good too if you can do the folds. This is a pretty complex origami, so like yeah, I wouldn't use scrapbooking paper. That'd be really hard to fold. But construction paper, if you go carefully, you might be able to get through it. So this is the base, and you just make that, and then the mochi, I just used boxes, and I used just, of course, white origami paper for this, and it's hard to find handmade paper that's white. You know, that's kind of a little trickier, or it has weird, you know, grassy fibers in it, and that's not how mochi looks. So these are a little squared edged than probably regular Kagami mochi is, but real mochi, actually, not real mochi, but mochi we just eat on at home is kind of pointy like this, but not nearly as white. So, but I made these two. They're different sizes. So if you're doing this kind of thing here to scale, again, you'd want one mochi to be made with 15 by 15 centimeter paper, and then the other to be made by 12 by 12 centimeter paper. And that'll give you these two pieces here that are of a nice difference in size, I think. You know, you want it to be significant to kind of tell the difference. So those two just stack on top of each other, and they just sit on top of the box, of course, like so. And then, of course, we need to have a little mikan. So I made a little orange balloon, and I used some handmade paper for this again too. And if it's bothering you how these ends stick out, you know, and you really want it to look like really realistic, you could glue those flaps down a little bit before you blow it up. But if you don't mind it kind of looking like this is origami, then it's okay if it sticks out like that. And we're going to have it setting on top of this uppermost mochi there with the hole on the top, because then we're going to use that area to put a leaf. And if you make a little leaf here, this should just slide right in, and you can kind of pick an angle that you like, but it should stay in there pretty easily. Now, if a big giant gust of wind comes along or somebody runs into your table, all this will fall down. But let me show you first the dimensions for the mikan here. The mikan, or tangerine, was made with paper that was, let's see here, I have my note, it was about 11 centimeters. And then the leaf was made with paper that's about 2.5 by 2.5 centimeters. Okay? So that kind of gives you all the pieces of what you need here. And then at the very end, we have those pieces of the ceremonial paper that we see on things like Kagami mochi and stuff. And if you want to be reminded of how to make this, I'll have you look back at the video for the shikishi again for how to do this. But I've made these two, and they're mirroring each other here. The paper size I used for this was 4.5. So the strips of paper. So the strips of paper were 4.5 by 2.25. So basically, if you have a 4.5 by 4.5 piece of paper, fold it in half and cut it. You need 2 of these, so that you remember that. You know, you need 2. And those are the basic dimensions of what I used to make my particular version here. So when I take these strips of paper, if you look at the table that we're going to be setting this on, if you want to be a diehard, pure, there's the group of purist origami, which believes you shouldn't use glue or scissors, then in this case you can follow this step. That's not the strict rules of origami. Actually, many people don't understand this, but origami allows you to use glue, it allows you to use scissors, you can use needle and thread. That has been used for many hundreds of years. And so people who always get so mad because I'm using scissors and glue need to look up Google and see what it really says there about what origami is. But anyways, this little guy here, if you don't want to use glue, you can just take the top part and fold down to create a little triangle. And that will create an angled latch that'll allow this to sit in here and then stick out at an angle that's appropriate for this display. And like I said, this is a very delicate thing. If you're not going to be using glue or anything, you don't want to, touch it too much or anything. But if you get these both here with a little latch, you should be able to get both of them on here. Sorry, so small. Alrighty. And they should stay fairly well. Now, obviously, if you want this to be very preserved and have no risk or run any chance of falling apart, put a little bit of glue on there and you'll be good to go. In terms of combining all these, if you just like having it sitting on your desk like so, and I know the camera angle may be hard to see there, but if you put it like this, you can just leave it and it should stay just fine. And, again, if there's an earthquake, it's going to fall apart, right? So, but if you want it to be just pure like this, that's great. Then you're done. You're all finished. If you wanted the option of trying to connect everything, the boxes here are not very useful in terms of gluing things down because there's this, there's just such a short edge to connect everything with the glue. So, one thing you could do is you could run a needle through, and I'd start down here at the bottom of the table and run it straight through the center here, come through straight through the center of this box, straight through the center of this box, and then straight through the center of the bottom of the mikan. And then just tie that end off and then pull it back down again because it's hard to work with things inside of the mikan. And then from looking at the underside of this table, you'll be able to secure things right here in a snug way so that things don't shift. Now, it's still going to be able to twist and turn though, of course, because this isn't so secured. So it still feels a little flimsy, but it should prevent it from completely falling apart on you. Just some ideas for ways that you can complete things if this is something you're doing to do for a display. But that kind of just gives you guys an idea of one way you can use parts and pieces of traditional origami to create kind of cool projects like this. And I think I'm pretty much done with all of the stuff for New Year's. I'll just be getting back into my usual stuff here of sharing projects with you guys and continuing to go through the traditional origami that we've done and creating printables for you guys as well. And then of course as we get closer to Valentine's Day, I'll have some projects for Valentine's Day. Yeah, thank you again always so much for watching, you guys. Again, Happy New Year, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Bye.